Indeed, the very name of the city spoke to the goddess's special relationship with this place. But how did Athens come to be Athena's city? Why was this particular goddess chosen as the patron of this particular place? The answer lies in one of the most famous founding myths of ancient Greece, a story that tells us much about how the Athenians understood themselves, their values, and their place in the world. In the earliest days, when the city that would become Athens was still young, ruled by its first king Cecrops, the place had not yet received its permanent name. Cecrops himself was a unique figure, often depicted as born from the earth itself, with the upper body of a man and the lower body of a serpent. He was autochthonous, a term the Greeks used to describe those who were literally sprung from the soil of their homeland, making them truly native in the deepest possible sense. Under Cecrops' wise rule, the settlement on the rocky outcrop above the plain of Attica began to prosper. The location was ideal, easily defensible, with access to good farmland and not too far from the sea. Word of this promising new city reached Mount Olympus, and two powerful deities took notice: Poseidon, the mighty god of the sea, earthquakes and horses, and Athena, the goddess of wisdom and strategic warfare. Both gods desired to become the patron deity of this city, to have it named in their honor, to receive its prayers and sacrifices, to guide its destiny. The dispute between them grew heated. Poseidon, brother of Zeus and lord of all the waters, believed his claim was strong. Athena, favorite daughter of Zeus and guardian of civilization, believed her claim equally valid. Neither would yield to the other. Zeus, watching from on high, recognized that this conflict could escalate dangerously. Rather than simply impose a decision, which would leave one deity resentful and potentially hostile to the city's future, he proposed a contest. Each god would give a gift to the city, and King Cecrops, along with the citizens, would decide which gift was more valuable. The deity who gave the better gift would become the city's patron and give it their name. The gods agreed to these terms, and a date was set for the contest. All the Olympian gods gathered to witness this momentous decision. The citizens assembled as well, climbing up to the rocky height of what would later be called the Acropolis. The air hummed with anticipation as the two contestants took their positions. Poseidon went first. The great god of the sea raised his trident, that powerful three-pronged spear with which he could stir storms and calm waves. He drove it down into the rocky ground of the Acropolis with tremendous force. The earth cracked and split, and from that crack, water began to flow. A spring had been born, created by Poseidon's divine power right there on the high rock. The crowd gasped at this display of power. Water was precious in Greece, and a spring could mean the difference between prosperity and hardship. But as people approached to taste this miraculous water, they discovered a problem. The spring was filled with seawater, salty and undrinkable. It was connected somehow to Poseidon's ocean realm, bringing the sea itself up onto the rocky height. Different sources offer different interpretations of this gift. Some say that Poseidon meant to demonstrate the city's future as a naval power, that the saltwater spring symbolized Athens' destiny to rule the waves. Others suggest that Poseidon was offering protection for the city's ships, ensuring safe passage for its merchants and warriors. Still others portray the spring more practically, as a source of salt for preserving food, or as a port of sorts, a symbolic bringing of the sea to the city. But in the immediate moment, as King Cecrops and the citizens examined this spring, it seemed impressive in its power, but limited in its practical utility. Salt water, while connected to the vast wealth of the sea, could not be drunk. It could not water crops. The gift was magnificent, certainly, but perhaps not as immediately useful as one might hope. Then it was Athena's turn. The goddess approached with measured steps, her grey eyes thoughtful, her manner calm and deliberate where Poseidon's had been forceful and dramatic. She did not raise a weapon or call down power from the heavens. Instead, she knelt on the rocky ground and thrust her spear into the earth, creating a small hole. Into this hole, Athena planted an olive branch. At her touch, the branch immediately began to grow, its roots reaching deep into the rocky soil, its trunk thickening, its branches spreading. Within moments, a fully mature olive tree stood before the assembled crowd, its silver-green leaves rustling in the breeze, its branches already bearing the first precious olives. The people understood immediately what this gift represented. The olive tree was extraordinarily valuable to life in Greece. Its fruit could be eaten, providing nourishment. Its oil could be pressed out, serving countless purposes: fuel for lamps, a cooking ingredient, a substance for cleaning and moisturizing skin, a base for perfumes and medicines. The wood of olive trees, though gnarled and twisted, was strong and useful for construction and tools. Even the leaves had uses, woven into wreaths to crown victors at athletic competitions and military heroes. More than these practical benefits, the olive tree symbolized something profound. It was a slow-growing tree, requiring years to reach full maturity and productivity. It represented patience, planning for the future, long-term thinking. An olive grove was an investment not just for the current generation, but for children and grandchildren to come. The olive tree spoke of peace and prosperity, of settled civilization rather than nomadic wandering, of cultivation and care rather than exploitation and violence. King Cecrops, that wise earthborn ruler, considered both gifts carefully. He saw the power in Poseidon's spring, the connection to the sea that it represented, but he also saw the daily usefulness of Athena's olive tree, the way it would bless the city, not with one dramatic moment, but with steady, ongoing prosperity. He consulted with the citizens, and some sources tell us that a vote was held, perhaps the first democratic decision in what would later become the birthplace of democracy. The decision went in Athena's favor. The olive tree was deemed the more valuable gift. Cecrops proclaimed Athena the patron goddess of the city, and it was decided that the city would bear her name. From that day forward, the settlement would be known as Athens, and the people who lived there would be Athenians, under the protection of the bright-eyed goddess. Poseidon, as you might imagine, did not take this defeat well. The sources differ on exactly what happened next, but all agree that the sea god's anger was formidable. According to Herodotus, writing centuries later, Poseidon sent a devastating flood to punish the Athenians for their choice. The Athenian plain was inundated with water, crops were destroyed, and many people suffered before the flood finally receded. Another tradition, preserved in various mythographic sources, tells us that Poseidon's anger manifested differently. The god's wrath brought drought to the region, the very opposite of flood. Athens and the surrounding area of Attica struggled with water scarcity. The olive groves that Athena had inspired wilted under the harsh sun, and the people learned that choosing a patron deity could come with costs as well as benefits. A third version of the aftermath involves Poseidon's son Halirrhothius. According to this tale, Halirrhothius, enraged on his father's behalf, attempted to chop down Athena's sacred olive tree with an axe. But as he swung the axe, his aim was thrown off, perhaps by Athena's intervention, and the blade struck him instead, killing him. This death led to further complications, as Ares, whose daughter had been assaulted by Halirrhothius, in some versions of the myth, was accused of murder by Poseidon. The matter was eventually settled on the Areopagus, the Hill of Ares, in what was said to be the first murder trial, with Ares being acquitted. Despite Poseidon's anger, the Athenians maintained their choice. Athena had won the contest fairly, and her gift had proven its worth. But the Athenians, pragmatic as always, did not completely alienate the powerful sea god. They built temples to him as well, most notably including him in the Erechtheion, the sacred temple on the Acropolis that honored both Athena and Poseidon together. Inside the Erechtheion, visitors could see the marks left by Poseidon's trident on the floor and the saltwater well that had sprung from those marks. It was a way of acknowledging the contest, of remembering that Poseidon too had cared enough about Athens to compete for it, even if he had not won. The original olive tree that Athena planted became the most sacred tree in all of Greece. It stood on the Acropolis, carefully tended, religiously protected. All other olive trees in Athens and Attica were said to be descended from this original tree, propagated from its branches. These descendant trees were called Morii, sacred olive trees that belonged to the state rather than to any private citizen. The Morii were so sacred that cutting one down was a capital crime, punishable by death or permanent exile. The care of the Morii was entrusted to special magistrates who inspected them regularly. Oil from these sacred trees was used to fill the prize amphorae awarded to victors at the Panathenaic Games. These amphorae themselves became highly prized objects, often inscribed with dedications to Athena and decorated with images of the goddess. The olive tree of Athena faced its greatest test in 480 BC, when the Persian king Xerxes invaded Greece with a massive army. The Persians captured Athens and set the Acropolis on fire, destroying the temples and burning Athena's sacred olive tree to a charred stump. The Athenians, who had evacuated the city and watched from afar as their homes burned, were devastated not just by the destruction of their buildings, but by the seeming death of their most sacred symbol. But then, something miraculous occurred. According to the historian Herodotus, who records this event, on the very day after the fire, a shoot emerged from the burned trunk of the olive tree, growing to a height of 2 cubits, roughly 3 feet, in a single day. The Athenians who had remained to guard the sanctuary saw this new growth as a sign from Athena herself, a message that the goddess had not abandoned them, that Athens would recover and grow again, just as the olive tree had recovered and grown. This story of the olive tree's regeneration became a powerful symbol of Athenian resilience. After the Persian Wars, as Athens rebuilt and entered its golden age, the olive tree stood as a reminder that even the worst destruction could be overcome, that new growth could emerge from devastation. Whenever Athens faced crisis in later years, the olive tree on the Acropolis was there, a living link to Athena's original gift. a testament to the goddess's continuing protection. During World War II, when German forces occupied Athens, the olive tree was again threatened. But descendants of the original tree had been carefully propagated over the centuries, and when peace returned, the American School of Archaeology in Athens replanted the tree with a cutting that had been saved. The tradition continued, the connection maintained, the symbol preserved. To this day, an olive tree stands on the Acropolis, in the courtyard west of the Erechtheion, in roughly the same spot where tradition places Athena's original gift. Whether it is directly descended from that first tree through an unbroken chain of propagation, or whether it represents the spirit of that original gift in a new form, it stands as a reminder of the contest between Athena and Poseidon, of the choice made by Cecrops and the early Athenians, of the value of wisdom over brute force, of careful planning over immediate display. The olive tree, with its slow growth and long-term benefits, perfectly symbolized Athens itself, a city that would become known not for military conquest alone, but for philosophy, drama, art, and democratic governance. The choice of Athena as patron set the character of Athens, suggested the values the city would hold dear: intelligence, strategic thinking, skill in crafts, and the kind of wisdom that plans not just for today, but for generations to come. Symbols of the goddess. To understand Athena fully, we must look not only at her stories and her epithets, but also at the symbols associated with her, the objects